Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever been with a man and found yourself wondering afterward, did that mean anything to him? Or maybe the thought crossed your mind, was I just another moment he'll forget? Here's the unspoken truth. A man can sleep with dozens of women, but years later, he usually remembers only one in striking detail. And what he remembers isn't the mechanics, not the acrobatics, not the fantasy. He remembers how she made him feel. Most women never realize this, because it's not about what you give him physically. It's about what you unlock in him emotionally. This isn't a video about tricks or seduction tactics. It isn't about performing or trying to mimic something out of a movie. This is about the raw, soul-deep difference between the woman he forgets and the one who lingers in his bloodstream for a lifetime. And once you understand these shifts, 5 exact shifts, everything changes. Not just for him, but for you too. Now pause and imagine this with me. A man who is strong, respected, and admired by everyone. He commands attention in every room, carries himself with confidence, maybe even power. But in the quiet of your bedroom, with no one watching, no applause to chase, no status to prove, that's where something else happens. That's where he wants to surrender. That's where he craves something real. But most of the time, he doesn't get it, not because women don't try, but because they don't know what he's truly starving for. For years, I thought it was about being exciting, about being different, about being desirable enough to hold his attention. But now I see more clearly, the woman he never forgets is rarely the sexiest. She's rarely the most glamorous. She's the one who was present, the one who didn't perform but connected, the one who saw him, often in a way he didn't even know he wanted to be seen. And that leads us to the first, most soul-piercing shift: presence over performance. The world tells women to do more, show more, prove more. But quietly, men are praying for something else entirely. He wants you here, just here, not rushing, not comparing, not thinking about the perfect angle or the flawless move. Just here with him. Because when you're present, something inside him unlocks. His nervous system calms. His walls drop. The pressure disappears. And for the first time, he's not judging himself either. Suddenly, 2 people are no longer role-playing. They're simply meeting for real. But let's be clear, presence isn't passive. It's not silence. It's not just lying still. It's about tuning in, feeling his skin, noticing your own breath, savoring how time slows down when you're not chasing an outcome. Imagine kissing him like it's the only thing in existence. Imagine being with him in such a way that nothing needs to be performed, because everything is already alive. That right there is how you begin to make love to a man emotionally. No pressure to move forward, no agenda, just that kiss, that breath, that single moment suspended in time. That's what he remembers, not the position, not the technique, but the way he felt seen. And when you offer that kind of presence, without judgment, without performance, without expectation, something wild unfolds. He lets go. And when a man feels safe enough to truly let go, he never forgets the woman who gave him that freedom. Not ever. But here's the truth. That's only the beginning. Presence is the foundation, yes, but it's just the first key. Because presence alone opens the door. What happens inside that door is where the unforgettable begins. Let's talk about appreciation. Not shallow compliments. Not flattery that brushes the surface. I mean appreciation that heals, not just flatters. The kind of words that don't stroke his pride, but soothe the ache of insecurity buried deep inside his chest. Most men live with a secret question humming beneath everything they do. Am I enough? He won't say it out loud. He may not even consciously realize it's there. But in the quiet of intimacy, it echoes. And every breath, every touch, every whisper you share has the power to either intensify that fear or dissolve it completely. That's why appreciation matters. Because when you lean close and say, I love how safe I feel with you, or when your breath catches in awe as your hand runs across his chest, you're not giving him an ego boost. You're giving him an anchor. You're telling him with your voice, your eyes, your body, right now, you are exactly who I want. And when he hears that, When he feels it, something in him shifts. His breath slows. His hands soften. His mind stops racing. He's no longer performing. He's being received. But let's raise the stakes. Because this is where so many people misunderstand masculine energy. They believe men always want to lead. They think he wants control every second. But the truth, men crave to be led, gently, skillfully, seductively, especially in intimacy. This is where the third key appears: feminine guidance without control. And here's the paradox. The softer you lead, the more powerfully he follows. I don't mean micromanaging his every move or barking instructions. I mean shifting the rhythm with a single breath, redirecting his attention with the lightest touch, slowing the entire moment with a single whispered word. That's leadership. Not the kind that emasculates, but the kind that inspires. Picture this: he's moving fast, excitement running ahead of presence. Instead of snapping, instead of freezing, you place your hand over his heart. You look him in the eyes, and with a voice soft but certain, you whisper, slower, not as a command, as an invitation. And suddenly, he isn't guessing anymore. He's attuned. He's listening. He's responding. And you've just given him what he didn't even know he needed: direction without judgment, clarity without criticism. Most men never experience this. They've been taught to chase, to dominate, to prove. But when a woman leads with grace, a new experience opens. He doesn't feel controlled. He feels guided. He doesn't feel tested. He feels trusted. And that's intoxicating, because now he isn't operating from pressure or performance. He's operating from presence, from attunement, from flow. And here's the most surprising part: the more gently you guide, the more fully he rises into his masculine. He wants to please you. He wants to match your rhythm. He wants to stay in this dance because it feels unlike anything else he's ever known. And that is when intimacy shifts from routine into something unforgettable. So while the world tells you there are only two choices, to submit or to dominate, there is a third path, a higher path, a space Jung himself might call the union of opposites. It's what I call receptive leadership. A way of guiding without force, of leading without control. Here, your body, your breath, your whispers become the map. And he follows, not because he has to, but because something in him is drawn to you like gravity. Pause for a moment. We've already explored the first three shifts: presence, appreciation, and feminine guidance. And already, you can feel how different this is from the way most people imagine intimacy. We haven't spoken about positions. We haven't listed techniques. Instead, we've gone deeper, into the territory where connection begins to root itself in memory. If you've ever wondered why some women linger in a man's mind long after the night ends, the reason is simple. They weren't just there. They were awake. They were attuned. They weren't afraid to guide, to affirm, to connect. But we're not done yet, because the next key, the fourth shift, is where intimacy stops being physical and starts piercing the soul. This is the place where a moment becomes a memory, and a memory becomes an imprint. An imprint so strong it borders on obsession. The fourth shift is emotional intimacy. This is the fuel that transforms physical touch into unforgettable connection. The mistake most people make is confusing intimacy with intensity. They think louder moans, wilder movements, or dramatic performances are what deepen bonds. But the truth is this: it is often the quietest moments that cut the deepest. The stillness between breaths, the pause before the kiss, the silence where only your eyes speak. That's where he feels something rare. Maybe something he's never felt before. Men walk through the world armored. They are celebrated for their stoicism, rewarded for emotional restraint, and rarely, if ever, invited to be soft. But in the bedroom, when you hold his gaze instead of breaking it, when your fingertips linger just a moment longer than expected, when you let silence carry its own weight, that's when his armor begins to fall. Not because you asked him to, but because your presence whispers, it's safe now. Emotional intimacy isn't about dramatic confessions or pouring out feelings mid-act. It's about allowing your soul to speak through your skin. It's the way you look at him not with lust alone, but with reverence And in that gaze, he feels something men rarely feel: chosen. Not for his performance, not for his power, but for the essence of who he is, stripped bare of all roles. And when a man feels chosen like that, something irreversible happens. He bonds. He remembers. He begins to associate you not with a fleeting thrill, but with peace. But emotional intimacy is not one-sided. It's not just about him opening up. It's about you allowing yourself to be seen too. Vulnerability is magnetic. When your body shudders and you don't try to control it. When your breath escapes in a way you didn't plan. When your voice cracks because the feeling is bigger than you expected. That is intimacy. That is the moment he stops being aroused and starts being moved. Yes, it feels exposing. Yes, it feels raw. But that's why it's unforgettable. Because when you dare to be unguarded, you give him permission to do the same. Together, you create a sanctuary, a temple, a timeless space where two souls meet, and that moment never fades. And here's what most people miss. Intimacy doesn't end when the climax fades. In fact, the most important minutes happen after. This is what we call aftercare. And if you want to leave a mark on a man's soul, it's not optional. Picture this. The room grows quiet. He expects the usual, a roll to the side, a kiss, maybe silence. But instead, you stay. You run your fingers through his hair. You rest your head on his chest. You trace gentle shapes on his skin and whisper, "I love being close to you." You don't need many words, because your stillness, your softness, your presence, they tell him everything. And that's when he realizes he wasn't just a body. He was received. He was wanted. He was held. That moment will replay in his mind again and again. When the world gets loud, when he's alone, when he tries to move on. Because most women focus on the act. Few understand how to hold the after. And now, we arrive at the final shift. The one that binds it all together. The one that elevates intimacy from sacred to soul-stirring. And it's this feminine energy is not a performance. It is a transmission. When you drop fully into it, when you release the need to impress, control, or prove, you become magnetic in a way that cannot be faked. Feminine energy isn't about lace, lingerie, or perfect lines. It is about resonance. A frequency he feels in his bones, a softness that pulls him home. And once you embody this truth, you will never approach intimacy the same way again. It's not about performance. It's not about perfect moves. It's about how you receive, how you soften, how you allow yourself to be moved. It's in the way your breath catches when his touch lands just right. It's in the way you surrender, not out of weakness, but out of trust. And that trust, that's what undoes him. Because for the first time, he doesn't just feel like a man. He feels like your man. And when a man feels that, he doesn't leave. He doesn't forget. He doesn't need reminding. You become etched into him. You're not just a memory. You're the standard, the blueprint, the ghost in his bones. Now imagine this: all 5 shifts: presence, appreciation, gentle guidance, emotional intimacy, and feminine energy, woven together like notes in a song only the two of you can hear. That isn't sex. That isn't performance. That is art. That is alchemy. That is what makes you unforgettable. And in these next moments, I want you to see what it looks like when theory becomes experience. When a kiss transforms into a conversation. When your breath becomes a message. When your body becomes a memory that lives in him long after the night is over. So let's bring it into the real world. Picture this: you're with a man. Maybe it's your partner of 5 years. Maybe it's someone new, someone you're just beginning to open to. The room is quiet. No rush. No performance. No script. It starts with a kiss. Not a hurried kiss. Not the kind that races toward the next step, but a kiss that breathes. A kiss that pauses and says, "I'm not going anywhere." You're not thinking about how you look. You're not rehearsing what comes next. You're here, entirely. That's presence. And his body feels it instantly. He may not have the words, but his nervous system knows. It relaxes. It exhales. Because your presence tells him without words, you're safe here. And in a world where men are constantly pressured to perform, to prove, to protect, that kind of safety is rare. That kiss becomes a universe, a slow inhale, a soft surrender. He leans in, not just because he's aroused, but because something in you invites him to linger, to stay, to go deeper. And as the moment builds, you don't rush. Your hands move across him like you're discovering new terrain. And when you speak, you don't fill silence with noise. You reveal truth. Maybe you murmur, "I love how solid you feel beneath my touch." Or maybe your eyes hold his as you whisper, "You drive me wild." You don't say it to flatter or manipulate. You say it because it's real. That's appreciation. Not surface, level praise, but the kind that soothes the hidden ache every man carries. The question, "Am I enough?" And your words tell him, "Right now, you are everything." The pressure falls away. He's not performing anymore. He's present. He's with you. But maybe his excitement runs ahead. He moves too quickly, too eager. Most women freeze, redirect awkwardly. Not you. You guide. Softly, powerfully. You place your hand on his chest and whisper a single word, slower. That's feminine leadership, not criticism, not rejection. An invitation. An adjustment. A rhythm. And he follows. Not because he has to, but because he's enchanted. You arch when you want more. You breathe deeper when it feels right. You move his hands with desire instead of demand. And he listens, not out of duty, but because your body has become the conductor of the entire experience. That's when intimacy stops being something you do and becomes something you create together. A dance, a conversation, a flow. Something neither of you wants to end. It's in that quiet after the storm, when the passion has crested and the air still trembles with heat, that the real magic begins. Most people turn away, they reach for a phone, or let the silence feel heavy. But you? Your power lives in what comes after. You don't rush. You don't retreat. You stay. You place your hand on his chest, you trace the warmth of his skin, and you let the silence become a language of its own. That's the moment he realizes this wasn't just desire, it was devotion. Because intimacy isn't measured in fireworks. It's measured in presence. It's in the way you linger, the way you allow him to rest in your softness without needing to be anything else. That stillness, that afterglow, it tells him he's safe to exhale in your arms. And that's rare. Because in a world that demands men to constantly strive, protect, and perform, you give him the one thing he secretly craves: permission to just be. And in that space, eye contact becomes something holy. You look at him, not through him, not past him, but directly into him. You don't flinch, you don't break away. You let your gaze anchor him in a truth deeper than words "I see you." I accept you. You don't have to hide here. That is emotional intimacy in its purest form. It's not about seduction. It's about revelation. And once he feels that, something inside him shifts. Years later, when he thinks back, it won't be the intensity of the moment he remembers. It will be that gaze, that pause, that knowing that someone once truly understood him without judgment, without conditions. That memory doesn't fade. It imprints. And when it's over, you don't shatter the spell. You don't pull away or wrap yourself in distraction. You lean closer. You breathe him in. Maybe you whisper something soft like, "I love how you make me feel alive." Or maybe you say nothing at all, letting your presence do the speaking. That's the thread that ties the entire experience together. It transforms passion into sacred memory. But here's what most people miss. The energy doesn't stop when the moment ends. The way you carry yourself afterwards, the softness in your voice, the way your body still radiates openness, the calm glow you leave behind, that is what lingers. He doesn't just crave your body, he craves the feeling you awaken inside him. The safety, the awe, the peace. And that, more than anything, is what keeps him coming back. Because once a man has tasted the depth of presence, appreciation, gentle guidance, emotional intimacy, and feminine energy woven together, he can't forget it. Tricks fade, games dissolve, but truth remains. And you become the truth he measures every connection against. That's not performance. That's not strategy. That's embodiment. That's what makes you unforgettable. Even if years pass, even if distance or circumstance pulls him into another life, there will be quiet nights when memory betrays him. He'll close his eyes, touch the place where your lips once lingered, and feel the echo of something deeper than passion. And it won't be the act he recalls. It will be the presence, the warmth, the way your energy wrapped around his soul, like a secret sanctuary. That's what lingers long after time rewrites the details. But here's the truth, this was never just about him remembering you. It's about you remembering yourself. Your softness. Your power. Your ability to awaken love without force, without games, without masks. To draw devotion not by demanding it, but by embodying a kind of feminine energy that cannot be replaced, cannot be ignored, cannot be forgotten. It begins the moment you choose differently, the moment you stop rushing through intimacy, stop asking for rules, stop comparing yourself to someone else. It begins when you slow down, listen to your breath, and let your body guide you back to truth. That is where your power lies. So the next time you find yourself in his arms, whether it's with a partner you've known for years, someone new who makes your heart race, or a man you've yet to meet, don't chase fireworks. Fireworks fade. Instead, seek depth. Don't try to impress. Instead, connect. Don't focus on being unforgettable. Focus on being real. Because authenticity is the imprint. Presence is the bond. And when you weave those 5 keys together, presence, appreciation, gentle guidance, emotional intimacy, and feminine energy, you create not just a moment, but a memory etched into both body and soul. And if hearing this stirs something inside you, if your chest feels a little lighter, if your breath deepens, if a part of you whispers, "This is what I've been missing," don't silence it. Lean into it. Save this message. Return to it. Let it remind you, again and again, of what you already carry inside. And if you're ready to keep awakening, to keep peeling back the layers of what it means to love and be loved, stay close to the space. Subscribe to Unseen Psyche. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what could shift everything. Because intimacy of this kind isn't common. It isn't loud. But it is life-changing. And it's yours to create, starting now.